Oh God.
Yeah, how about that? Hi, Rob Gomes, and I'm sitting here with Anthony Newfield, veteran of Broadway, off-Broadway, stage, screen, you name it. And he's also been in the understudy trenches, the standby trenches with me. And so he's going to talk to me a little bit about some of those experiences, right?
Sure.
Okay, so why don't we start with, I don't know, like, well, first of all, we can talk about the fact that you did cover the star of our film, Reed.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And what was that like?
It was a good experience. It was 1984, and I had to cover him, Michael Potts, and Wayne Duvall. So there were 3 roles that I was covering, and it was a lot. I've covered a lot of shows, a lot of different people, but I haven't done 3 roles like that in a long time. And
weren't there some like crazy, fast scene changes and like technical things that were?
Well, the show was full of technical stuff. I mean, there was the first part of the show that had where they were telling the story, and then it goes into Room 101, which is the torture chamber.
I saw it. It was terrifying. Yeah.
And I never had to go on for Reed, but I did have to go on for Michael Potts. And it was, I like that role a lot, actually. Of the 3 roles, that was the one that I felt best about and enjoyed doing. And so, but it also had its terrifying moments.
Tell us about the terror, yeah.
Well, he opens the show and he's sitting, the way it was staged was he was sitting on the floor behind a flat and then had to crawl through what we called the cat door, the dog door. It was like this tiny little door that Michael had to crawl through to get into place for the scene when the lights came up.
So he wasn't on stage yet. He
Correct.
was sitting,
Yeah, you heard his voice talking. The lead actor was on stage, and you saw him reading, and you hear this voiceover, if you will. And so, you had to know that speech. There was nobody there who could help you if you didn't know it. And I did know it, but when you go on, it's your heart's thumping. And the last thing I remember Reed saying to me before, I had to begin was, "Don't fuck up, Tony."
God. That's a line in the screenplay. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Reed.
God. Yeah, thanks, Reed.
So, but I then so we got through the play and we get to Room 101 and now we are. You're in and out of costumes all the time. Those actors. My hats off to them for everything that they did. But so I was underdressed and I had on like heavy clothes, and then I had to get into a hazmat suit and a mask and gloves and boots, and I'm sitting there and I am pouring sweat. Everybody was. I'm not really used to this, and I'm sitting there, and the audience is out there watching the show, and I thought, well, I could faint right now. I didn't feel like I was going to faint, but I thought it's a possibility because, I'm sweating and it's hot and I'm not getting a lot of air. And I thought, but if I faint, I'm sitting and I'm not that far away from the ground, so I probably wouldn't kill myself. And it would just be another news item because there had been one news item after another about actors hurting themselves in 1984. I didn't faint and I got through it and it was all fine.
Yeah. Was there something you told me you banged your head when you went the first time?
Yeah. Because the stage manager wanted me to crawl through that door. Now I'm much taller than Michael Potts, and he kept saying, "You don't have to go through the little door." He says, "Tell him you want to go through." There was another door that I could have gone through where I'd be standing up and probably would have taken, the same amount of time. But these directors who directed 1984 wanted these blackouts or lights up to happen like that. And, the audience thought, wow, how did they do that? So I said, well, I'm game, I'll do it.
How
And
did they
so
do it?
during our put-in rehearsal, I, am there, the lights go out, and I try to make my entrance, and I bang my head against the top of this door, and I enter, and Tom Sturridge is looking at me, and I've got blood,
Oh my God.
dripping down. So I gave blood, sweat, and tears for that job.
Wow. So what, you were telling me a little bit about your experience, the high point, one of your high points, but there was one that was like at the last minute you were telling me about, right? That you...
Yeah. So I stood by for Frank Langella in The Father by Florian Zeller, translated by Christopher Hampton. Wonderful play, really wonderful play about an old man who is slipping deeper and deeper into dementia, and it was challenging. Frank won the Tony that season, best actor in a play. It was really a good play, good role, and I loved working on it. And we had a stage manager who was fantastic, and he told Manhattan Theater Club that we understudies had to have a rehearsal where we had everything that the actors in the cast had. So we did have on a Thursday, we had lights, we had the curtain, and we had all this animation. We had all the furniture that disappeared slowly as it did in the play. Some of the furniture went through traps in the floor, and this all occurred in blackouts. And the audience was blinded by lights that flashed at them, so they couldn't see what was occurring during these very fast blackouts. But we on stage could see, because suddenly these big gaping holes appeared in the stage floor as we had to make our crosses. So it was dangerous. And we had this rehearsal on Thursday. Then on that Saturday, 2 days later, I'm walking to the theater and I get a phone call, and my heart skipped a beat because it was the stage manager saying, Tony, you're going on this afternoon.
Oh my God.
And I walked a little faster, got to the theater in time, and I ran through the opening lines with Katie Irby, who played my daughter, and we were off and running, and I had to do the show. And it was, kind of fraught.
Now, had you done the show yet? Had you had to put in rehearsal at all with any of the active performing cast?
No put in rehearsal. God. No. I just did it. And because of that rehearsal on Thursday, I did feel confident. I knew the lines, I knew the lines, and I knew the blocking. And just running those lines with Katie at the beginning before the curtain rose, and we ran our lines, that gave me a little confidence, because I then had a sense of who I was going to be speaking with, because my rehearsals, of course, were with the other understudies. And but now I was hearing Katie's voice as my daughter.
Did you get a sense that any of the understudies the performing cast adapted to what you were doing? Like it was a different feel for them?
Yeah, and they spoke with me afterwards. And this has been my experience, actually, that they get a kick out of it when the understudy goes on, because it's something new. It gives them a little, there's a little added energy to the show, because somebody new is doing it.
Sure.
And they of course wanted Frank to be okay, but it added a little new energy.
Yeah. What now you were telling me a little bit too about when you went on, you covered the royal family, right? At the
Oh God, that's another one. So royal family, I was cast in a little role, but also to cover three of the actors, including Tony Roberts.
So you were actually in the production.
I had a small role in the play. Okay. And we rehearsal, and then in previews, and then on a Sunday, it was 4 days before opening, Sunday matinee, and I'm backstage watching the show from an area where I had a straight shot to the stage, and I could see it without being seen by the audience. And I'd done this a lot, but my mind was sort of drifting, and I hadn't gone over the lines that morning because I was going to do it between the matinee and the evening show, and my mind was drifting. I was thinking about lunch or something, and suddenly I heard something on stage that wasn't right, and Tony had a seizure, and the
Oh my God.
I never want to hear another stagehand run past me yelling, "Bring down the curtain."
Oh my God.
It was terrifying. And so he was rushed to the hospital, and long story short, he was okay. But they canceled the matinee. They the director kept all of us actors at the theater. And when we heard that he was all right, Doug Hughes, our director, convened us all on stage and said, okay, the matinee has been canceled, but we're going to do the show tonight, and with Tony Newfield in the role of Oscar Wolf. And I had not rehearsed it at all. So,
oh my God, this is a nightmare.
So Doug asked me, he says, would you like to run through your scenes, Tony? I said, yes, please.
Yeah, maybe.
And so I had a chance to walk through it once with the other actors, and Jan Maxwell, God love her, she said, it's all right, honey. She says, if you're not in the right place, we'll drag you to wherever you need to be on stage. But I did know the lines, I did know the blocking, and that night, this is interesting. This is
just terrifying. Yeah.
So I did probably every superstitious thing you could. I knocked wood. I said a little prayer. It's everything like, oh God, please help me. And I checked my props 1 billion times, and there I am standing at the door, and the buzzer goes, and the maid comes to get me, and she says, hello, Mr. Marshall, and she called me the wrong name. And
oh my God,
I thought I should correct her, and I don't know why I didn't, but I was so focused on what I had to do. I thought, fuck it, I can't worry about it. And I said, oh, and I sailed on. And I said, let them figure it out. And later, at the end of the show, she came up to me and she apologized. She says, I knew you were going on, but suddenly she says, I came off stage, and suddenly there was this tall man.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So that propelled me into my my first night doing that.
Yeah.
And it all went great. And then in the second act, a lot of my work was with Rosemary Harris, and I was sitting with her on a sofa, and she held my hand, and she is so wonderful, and I felt like I'd been doing this with her forever.
Oh, that's so great.
And in the third act, there's a point where Jan and I had a scene where it was very serious. And then I had to walk down stage and shift it from the serious part of the act into something comedic. And as I walked down stage, I realized I stepped out of my light. So I stepped a little bit back up stage to get into my light. And I was in my light, and I delivered my line, and I got the laugh. And I thought, okay, if I'm this relaxed, it's all going to be okay. And it was.
Wow, problem solving right there on stage as it's happening. That's terrifying to not had any rehearsal.
Yeah, I never want to have to do that again, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's funny, as they started rehearsing, I was covering a play that he directed, and they started rehearsing us right away. So I don't know if because of that, but I mean, we were like, it was the soonest I've been on my feet as an understudy ever. We hadn't even opened yet. Yeah. Well, okay, so these are some terrifying things, and it sounds like exhilarating too at the end there.
Yeah. But it's fun. I mean, I think it's fun. I think it's rewarding also. I mean, I've had a chance to work on really great material here in New York. My first Broadway play, I was hired to cover 3 roles, and then to take over one of the roles because they knew that this one actor wasn't going to be able to go on. And the play was Tartuffe. And I mean, it's one of the world's great plays. And so I learned all the lines and so on, and I had to go on. I had to go on as Cléante, and I loved it. That was the role for me, and I was prepared and ready, and I had fun. And then I had to take over a different role than what I had thought I was going to take over. I ended up taking over the role of the officer, the Deus Ex Machina at the end, and it was great. I mean, I pretty much knew that play by the time we ended.
Yeah, I'm sure you know it all by that point. Anything with like, I don't know. I know you covered Godot. You played both.
Yeah.
You covered both Vladimir and Lucky. Right?
And Lucky, yeah. And boy, I can tell you that that's a role I never wanted to do. Never. I just I mean, just learning one of those roles is hard enough.
I know.
Dee Dee, I love that role. I mean, I love the play, but yeah, I never wanted to go on as Lucky.
Yeah. Is there anything that, I don't know, is there anything that well, what are you working on now? Why don't we talk about what you're actually working on? Like, what are you actually working on now? You're directing something.
Yeah,
at the moment.
I finished I finished another show where I was standing by for Joey Tillinger in Apologia, and he's just one of the funniest people in the world. And we shared a dressing room. He and I, Hugh Dancy, and Hugh's understudy. And by the end of the run, it was a lot of laughs. And I'd get to the theater, and Joey would go, oh, I can't go on, Tony. You're going to have to go on for me. I can't do it. And I'd affect this, bad British accent and this dramatic, no, Joey, I am the wind beneath your wings. So we had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a great job. And yes, I'm directing a play right now, a little one-act play.
Yeah. Do you want to put anything about that in there?
So it's a play by my husband, Richard Aliman, and it's a one-act. We're doing it at the Frigid Festival, downtown, East 4th Street, Crane Theater. And it's end of February, beginning of March, various dates. Check our website, check
the
Facebook.
Frigid Festival. Yeah.
Frigid Festival.
Okay, and we can put that link in. Yeah.
Okay, great. And it's called the Comfort Zones, the two one-act plays.
Great. Well, this is more scary than I thought it was going to be to hear these stories. Thank you, Tony Newfield, for sharing some of your understudy cover stories with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and good luck with the project.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.